So, a very good morning to all of you. I hope everybody can see and hear me clearly. We are meeting after a break of one day. So, normally we used to take classes. We used to meet every day, but yesterday we took a break. In fact, I hope all of you are familiar about the timings of the class. The class that is happening now is at 10 o'clock in the morning, and it will be there every day. It will be there 6 days a week, except Tuesdays. Right. So, let's continue with whatever we have been doing so far, and all of you, I hope, remember what we have been doing, right? So what we do here is very simple. We pick up different passages, we try to solve questions. In short, we practically prepare for the RC section of CAT or other exams as such. And by the way, when I say RC, right, the English section is, if not entirely, to a great extent, dependent on passage skills, on your ability to read, on your ability to understand, on your ability to infer ideas, right? So, very good morning to all of you. I hope everybody can see and hear me clearly, right? Now, before I begin with anything else, as usual, I will ask everybody to quickly take a look at the YouTube schedule of the day, right, of the entire week. All of you know about it already, right? So this is just to remind you about everything, right? So shall we proceed? Yes, everybody is slowly joining in. Himanshu, Pinky, Shagufta, Payal, Frankie, Aditya. Very good morning to all of you and others also, right? Uh, Makaran, how was the VRC section in CET? I have not seen all the sections, right? I have not seen all the, what they call, all the questions, or wo jo hai, since I didn't take it live, right? Do not have first person, opinion of that, right? So, but overall, from what I have heard, the idea is that as usual, the paper was not difficult, easy to medium, but what is difficult is the number of questions. Generally, that is what is expected of Maharashtra CET, right? So, what happens is generally, 50 questions, and according to the time limit, the paper is a little bit lengthy, right? So that is what has been the feeling so far, right? And chalo, let's continue. So today what I will do is I will try passage based questions, right? We will try 2 3 passages, and you will notice that when I'm taking up these questions, the passages would be shorter, right? They would be based on, they would be like, they can be taken from different sources. And why are we taking up short passages? Because if you're able to understand one paragraph properly, and if you're able to process the ideas and answer questions on it, that is a good reflection of how well you will do in longer passages also, right? So let's see. I hope everybody is clear. This is the first question which I would like all of you to take up. The first question is this, and all of you can see that this is a question that is based on ZAT 2021. Let's see. It's taken directly from ZAT 2021. And what does the passage say? Which of the following statements can be best inferred from the passage? Inferred is something which you arrive at, which is not, which is not like, which which is given implicitly in the passage. So that is what we have to look at. Okay. So let's see. Read the passage and look at the options and see. And this paragraph, though it is short, right, it will take some time, it will take a little bit of interpretation. You will require to understand it to some extent, right? It is not easy. In short, it is not easy. Which of the following would be the best answer? I hope everybody is reading it. Okay. What is the best answer? everybody. थोड़ा philosophical है. If you notice, this passage is a little bit on the philosophical side, and I hope all of you understood this. Let's read this. So one of you, Ibrahim Contractor, thinks the answer is E. Frankie and Makaran thinks the answer is C. Okay, why not A? Aditya Kumar को A लग रहा है. Okay, so 3 different answers. Let's see, एक बार पढ़ के देखते हैं. We stand before this great world. ठीक है, मतलब it's ये तो everybody understands. The truth of our life depends on our attitude. ठीक है, so the truth of life depends upon our attitude of mind towards it, right? And this attitude is formed by our habit of dealing with according to the circumstances. So the truth depends on attitude, and this attitude is formed by our habit of dealing with it, dealing with the world according to the circumstances of our surroundings and our temperaments, right? So when you say it guides, what guides is the attitudes. The attitude guides our attempts to establish relationship with the universe, right? So, and there are two ways, that is either by conquest or by union. And thus in our realization of the truth of existence, we put our emphasis upon the principle of dualism or upon the principle of unity, right? So principle of dualism or unity is when you actually think that everything is the same, right? And dualism is when you think that you are different from the world and you need to overcome it, you need to conquer it, you need to subdue it. So that is basically dualism. Okay. Now if you notice, let's see, the best answer here is C. Our habits and surroundings determine the truth of our life. Look at this. The truth of our life depends upon our attitude of mind towards it, right? And this attitude is formed by our habit, right? So eventually, truth depends on X, and X depends on habits, right? So that way, of course, C is the best answer, right? How do I eliminate the other options? How do I eliminate the other options? Look at A. Conquest and union are two ways of realizing the truth of our life. Directly nahi hai. The truth of our life, right? We It depends on the attitude, right? And in our realization of the truth of existence, we put our emphasis. So we put our emphasis when we try to realize truth of life, we emphasize on these two things. Does it mean that these are the two ways? No, last line par ke dekho. We put our emphasis, right? And does it mean that these are two ways? So slightly troublesome hai. ठीक है. Vaishnavi, did you understand everybody? A क्यों नहीं है? A देखो. In our realization of the truth of existence, we emphasize on X or Y. Does it mean that X or Y are ways of realizing the truth? No. So wording thoda sa, it's a little bit troublesome, different from what the passage says. Okay, all clear, I hope. Right. Some of you are saying E also. E, the truth of our life co-evolve with our quest. Dekho, sympathetic supremacy. First of all, sympathy and supremacy cannot be mixed up like this. Sympathy is when you become one, when you do not try to conquer. Supremacy is when you try to conquer. So that way they are different things. So sympathetic supremacy nahi ho sakta. It will have to be either sympathy or supremacy. Okay? And the truth of our life did not evolve, right, with this method. These methods are used by us to examine or to arrive at the truth of life. Okay? Right, so that is the case. Okay. Aniket, it also says our temperaments. Now, if you say X, Y, and Z, three things determine something, right? So, if I say 1, 2, and 3 determine A, I can also say 1 and 2 determine A. Okay? So, in option C, even if you do not include temperament, it is not wrong. Okay? Clear hai? Clear है अनिकेत, समझ में आ रहा है, right? So when you say that, देखो, if I say Ram, Ravi and Sham determine the future of X, it means that Ram determines also, right? So when you have a bigger thing and when you conclude from it, right? See, from a set, if you infer the smaller one, the smaller part of that set, it is not wrong. In short, from a bigger thing, if you conclude a smaller thing, it is not wrong. Okay, right? Everybody got it, I hope. So this was the first question. Okay, all clear, I hope. Chalo, let's try the next question. This is also from ZAT 2021. Now here the question is, the writer's disappointment can be best summarized as. So we'll have to understand, what the author is unhappy about. So find out in this passage, the author will be unhappy about something. What is it that he is unhappy about? Okay, let's see. Okay, many of you are asking, masthead of a newspaper. Masthead is basically, किसी भी न्यूज़पेपर में देखो एक लोगो टाइप का होता है जिसमें ओनरशिप, एडिटर, ये सब का इंफॉर्मेशन लिखा रहता है, राइट. फॉर एग्जांपल टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया का देखो पेपर के बिल्कुल ऊपर यू विल सी दैट द masthead, इट टेल्स यू हु ओन्स दैट ब्रांड. ठीक है. सो फर्स्ट टू लाइन से ही समझ में आ रहा है what is the author trying to tell us about. Twitter is not on the masthead of a newspaper, but Twitter has become its ultimate editor. These first two lines are very important. This will help you decide the answer very clearly. हाँ वैष्णवी, नॉट जस्ट द लोगो. लोगो जैसा होता है जिसमें न्यूज़पेपर का ओनर कौन है, राइट. न्यूज़पेपर के जो मतलब हु आर द ओनर्स, हु आर द एडिटर्स, सो दैट इज बेसिकली व्हाट इज द इंफॉर्मेशन अबाउट. ठीक है. व्हाट शुड बी द आंसर? And what do you mean by mores here? Mores matlab the foundation, right? Foundation, what it depends on. Aditya is saying B. Newspapers influenced by the followers. Are newspapers influenced by the followers? Is the author saying that newspapers are influenced by the followers on social media platforms? Okay, some people are answering D also. Why is it? How is it that you're not reading it? Writer's disappointment. The author is not happy about something. First two lines में दिख रहा है. What does he say? Twitter newspaper के masthead में नहीं है. That means Twitter is not the owner of any newspaper, but Twitter has become its ultimate editor. What does it mean? It means Twitter influences the newspapers and the author is not happy about it. तभी तो वो कह रहा है कि एडिटर है नहीं फिर भी एडिटर बन गया. So that means social media influences what is given in a newspaper, right? So what is happening is the paper itself is increasingly becoming a kind of performance space. That means the paper tries to perform. The paper tries to, what kind of a performance does it seek to see, to satisfy the narrowest of audiences, right? So the best answer is C. Newspapers cave into the narratives shared on social media platforms. मतलब Twitter में जो आता है वो newspapers को influence करता है. So that is what he says in the first two paragraph. First two lines देखो इसी से clear हो गया. Everything that happens later on is more like an addition, is more like a substantiation of what the author has been saying so far. Everybody understood this? Everybody understood this? Aniket E. Newspapers are ready to compromise with their ethics. अच्छा. Again, E से better answer C है, right? Compromise with their ethics in what way? किस तरह से? By taking money from people? No, right? So वो clear नहीं है ना? What is happening in the passage is that what the author is telling you is that Twitter जैसा something like Twitter, it influences newspapers. ठीक है, एंड स्टोरीज आर टोल्ड सो दैट इट सेटिस्फाइज द नैरोएस्ट ऑफ ऑडियंसेस, राइट. सो the concept of a newspaper has changed. So newspapers cave into मतलब give up to, surrender. That means social media में जो stories share होता है, that influences a newspaper. That is what he's saying in the first two lines. ट्विटर इज नॉट ऑन द masthead ऑफ अ न्यूज़पेपर. masthead क्या होता है, जहाँ पे एडिटर कौन है, कंट्रोलिंग पावर्स बिहाइंड इट, वो लिखा रहता है. लेकिन ट्विटर हैज बिकम इट्स अल्टीमेट एडिटर. दैट मीन्स न्यूज़पेपर में जो पब्लिश होता है इट डिपेंड्स ऑन ट्विटर. ठीक है, राइट. सो इज इट क्लियर? ओके वैष्णवी, देखो अदर्स, what is the meaning? Okay, Frankie, everybody is saying not understood the passage. First two lines देखो, what does he say? ट्विटर न्यूज़पेपर के कंट्रोलिंग बोर्ड ऑफ डायरेक्टर्स या न्यूज़पेपर के जो कंट्रोलिंग पावर है उससे कोई रिलेशन नहीं है, लेकिन इट इट इज द अल्टीमेट एडिटर. मतलब क्या हुआ, ट्विटर इन्फ्लुएंसेस, राइट. नाउ सो एज द एथिक्स एंड मोरल्स ऑफ दैट प्लेटफॉर्म, दैट मीन्स ट्विटर का जो प्लेटफॉर्म है, ट्विटर का आइडियोलॉजी हैज बिकम द आइडियोलॉजी ऑफ द पेपर. ठीक है, व्हेन यू से दैट प्लेटफॉर्म यू बेसिकली मीन ट्विटर. सो Twitter influences the newspaper. Stories are chosen and told in a way to satisfy the narrowest of audiences. So here he is criticizing what Twitter does. So whatever Twitter does is followed by the newspaper, right? So बाकी options तो है भी नहीं connected. देखो, newspaper fear to speak outside the narrow confines. It is not about speaking outside. Sorry. So newspapers speak to fear outside the narrow confines of social media. Here does the passage tell you that newspapers speak within social media? No, social media influences newspaper. So ये तो है ही नहीं ना. And newspapers get influenced by not the followers but by social media platforms. What is published on social media platforms. ठीक है. Now C is the answer. Cave into the narrative shared on social media. मतलब social media में जो आता है वो newspaper में भी आ ही जाता है. So that is what the passage was telling you, right? D irrelevant है. Create their own narratives. Do newspapers create their own narratives? No, they depend on Twitter. They depend on social media platforms like Twitter. What about E? Newspapers are ready to compromise with their ethics. This is too vast. Compromise with their ethics can also mean they take money, right? Here is the problem of taking money, or is it like being influenced by social media platforms? It is being influenced. Okay, all clear? Everybody understood this, I hope, right? So E is too big. It is in fact bigger than what the passage says. Okay, all clear, I hope. Everybody is clear? Okay, chalo. Let's try one more passage. This last one is a little bit longer. So let's see. अच्छा, Frankie saying you thought we were wrong because you thought that Twitter is the newspaper. नहीं, Twitter तो वो Twitter है social media platform. It's an example of the social media platform, and the author's way, that's the author's way of saying Twitter masthead में नहीं है लेकिन editor बन गया. That means Twitter influences. ठीक है, all clear? This is the next slide. This passage which you are seeing is also from ZAT 2020, right? And the topic, the style of writing of this passage is a little bit interesting. That is why I have decided to discuss it with you. Let's see, right? So multitasking increases the production of the stress hormone cortisol. Okay, and another hormone called adrenaline. What does adrenaline do? Adrenaline prepares you for the fight or flight. Fight or flight basically means how you respond to a crisis situation. ठीक है, फ्रैंकी, कॉर्टिजोल क्या होता है? इट इज एक्सप्लेन्ड हियर, स्ट्रेस हार्मोन कॉर्टिजोल. तो व्हाट इज देयर एनी वे टू डिस्क्राइब इट फर्दर? इट इज द हार्मोन दैट हेल्प्स यू डील विद स्ट्रेस, राइट? और द हार्मोन दैट is produced when you have stress in your body. उसी तरह adrenaline is also a hormone. Look at the context, it will be very clear. ठीक है, now mental fog or scrambled thinking. Scrambled thinking मतलब not being able to think clearly. Scramble क्या होता है? Scramble means to be scattered in a very random, in an illogical manner. So that is scrambled. Everybody is reading it. So what is multitasking? Produces it helps produce two hormones, right? One is cortisol, one is adrenaline. One is connected to stress, one is connected to your response. It makes response to crisis situations, right? And what happens? They overstimulate your brain. Both these hormones overstimulate your brain. Okay, so what happens is now is if you have read it, is the author criticizing or is he praising multitasking? He is actually criticizing multitasking, saying that multitasking creates a dopamine addiction feedback loop. Right? What does that mean? It means because of multitasking, whatever is produced in the brain is pleasurable. Therefore, it creates addiction to it. Right? That means the brain is attracted towards what is created by multitasking. Is it good or bad? It is not good. तभी तो वो कह रहा है to make matters worse. The prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the seat of the brain, which is about intelligence. It has a novelty bias. What is the meaning of novelty bias? It means if you see something new, right, we are attracted towards it. ठीक है Vikram, proverbial means something which you find in the proverb, like if you say the proverbial golden goose, matlab whatever you find in proverbs. So proverbial here means something which is very well known. So what is it telling you here? In short, multitasking jo hai, it makes your brain addicted to short term pleasures, right? And the prefrontal cortex is connected to what is it? It's connected to novelty, in the sense that it is attracted to novelty, it is attracted to something new. Okay, right? So from completing 1,000, so it can be easily hijacked by something new, right? We used to entice from completing 1,000 little sugar coated tasks. So in short, the idea here is that the human brain can be hijacked by these small things. Right. So Vikram, yes, he is telling you multitasking is again focus work efficiently. How? Because it makes our brain addicted to small things. Right. So therefore it produces scramble thinking. Everybody has read it so far. Clear, everybody? Right. Now you will understand in this paragraph the irony is clear. What is irony? Irony is something like a cruel joke when what happens is very different from what you expect. What is the author doing here? He's telling us about human psychology, right? So there's an irony. The very brain region, the prefrontal cortex, is the region that he's talking about, right? The very brain region we need to rely on for staying on task. Staying on task is focusing on something, right? So we need the prefrontal cortex for focusing on something, but that is easily distracted. Right? He's giving you examples. We answer the phone, look up something on the internet, check our email. These are all small things which attract and which catch the attention of the prefrontal cortex, and it distracts you from the main task. Aditya and Shagufta both asking the meaning of tweak. Tweak means small changes. Right. So each of these things tweaks the novelty. Tweaks means has an impact on making changes on here, right? So small attractions like this, right? It diverts the attention, the pleasure-seeking centers of the brain, and causing a burst of endogenous opioids. Endogenous means something which is born within the brain. What is an opioid? Like an opium, like a drug. So therefore, all these things, these small distractions, they cause a certain pleasure to the brain. This diverts you from focusing on a long task. ठीक है वैष्णवी detriment is something which is harmful. Vikram, hinder means coming in the way. ठीक है something which comes in the way, it hinders your concentration. So what is happening here is given here. Instead of reaping the big rewards that come from sustained focus effort, we reap empty rewards from completing 1,000 little sugar-coated tasks. So instead of sustaining on one thing and focusing in completely, right, the brain gets useless empty rewards from doing small tasks which are distracting from the normal, from the normal what they call job, from the normal or the job at hand. Okay, now let's see. Right there he is telling you one of the examples, right? Old days where the phone rang and we were busy, we either didn't answer or we turned the ringer off, right? So phone was attached to a wire to the wall, right? So there was no expectation of being able to reach us at all time because the phone was there. It was not mobile, right? It was fixed. Human beings are not attached to the phone, so it was considered normal if somebody does not pick the phone. Nowadays, not picking the phone is taken as an exception. It is not take. It's taken as a abnormal thing, right? So if you do not pick up the phone when somebody rings nowadays, it is considered abnormal. Why? Because the phone is attached to you. You have it everywhere with you. So you are expected to pick up the phone. Okay. Now more people have cell phones than have toilets, right? So he's telling you that I mean, the access to cell phones is more than the access to toilets. Everybody has read it, I hope. Okay, nothing difficult. Okay, this is the last slide. Right. So this has created an implicit expectation that you should be able to reach someone when it is convenient for you, regardless of whether it is convenient for them. So when everybody has access to a phone, everybody thinks that we can reach the other person when it is convenient for me. We do not look at the convenience of the other person. Okay? Right. So this is like further explanation of this distraction. Yes, so phone is you carry it everywhere you go. So when somebody calls you, the caller expects you to pick it, right? Because he knows it is expected of you that the phone will be with you. So there is no reason you should not answer. Okay. Then he gives you this example. This expectation, what is this expectation? Expectation that when you call a person, the other person will call, right? So he gives you an example. I am sorry, I can't talk now. I am in a meeting. Right. Look at the if you cannot talk now, why are you talking? So that is what he's saying. Just a decade or two ago, the same people would have let the landline on their desk go unanswered. So different were the expectations for reachability. समझ में आ रहा है? Now, in the middle of a meeting, you pick up a call and say, "I am sorry, I cannot talk now. I am in a meeting." You do not leave it unanswered. Some decades ago, people would have simply left it go. So that is basically why he is telling you the expectations have changed, right? So the author is actually being slightly थोड़ा सा sarcastic type का remarks he is using here. ठीक है, shall we look at the questions देखते हैं, right? Be very careful what does the author say, and when answering questions I always tell everybody, be very clear about what the author is asking, right? Do not look for only something which is correct. It has to be correct, and also it should be something which answers the question. So why do people in meetings routinely answer their cell phones to say, okay, now Vikram, it started from multitasking and now ended on criticizing technology. Not just criticizing technology. See, that phone he is giving you as an example of a source of distraction, right? He started by saying that multitasking, right? If you notice, multitasking for him was something which distracted from focused tasks, because there are so many distractions, so your brain is naturally attracted to small distractions, and the phone is an example of a distraction. So why do people in meetings routinely say, I am sorry, I can't talk now, I'm in a meeting, right? Himanshu is saying, hey, acha, it is convenient for people to send a message. कहाँ message भेज रहा है? Call कर रहा है. Nobody is sending a message here. Somebody is calling you and you are replying saying, I am sorry, I can't talk now, I am in a meeting. ये मैं बोल के बता रहा हूँ कि I cannot talk to you right now. ठीक है? So A नहीं है answer. What would be best answer? In meetings, cell phones allow people to multitask. Is it this? No. Right. The best answer is, okay. It conveys that the receiver is a busy person. Does the author want to say this? No. देखो, meeting में you cannot pick a call. फिर भी you pick up and you say that I am busy, I cannot talk now. तो talk क्यों कर रहे हो फिर? Right. So this is very highlights the expectation. Expectation is, if you have a cell phone, you have to reply because you are always reachable. So that is what is the case. What is the expectation? The expectation is, if you have a cell phone, you should reply. Okay, wherever you are. So the other person who's calling you is going to look at only his convenience, not your convenience. That is exactly why you are expected to reply. Okay, everybody is clear, right? Now, busy होने का is not the case. Just now you read this line थोड़ी देर पहले. It is more of a, many of you said it is sarcastic ना. Sarcasm ही तो है, right? Look at this. This expectation is so ingrained. This is the reason. कौन सा expectation, right? The expectation that you should be able to reach someone when it is convenient for you, regardless of whether it is convenient for them. This is the expectation. Meaning, if you have a cell phone, you are expected to reply. Wherever you are expected to reply. Okay? Whether it is convenient or not for you, you are expected to reply. So this is basically the best. So best answer is E. Okay? All clear? The part which I read, I hope everybody understood. Yes. Okay. So let's try the next question. What does the author best intend to convey when he says, now more people have cell phones than toilets? Remember, choose the best answer. Remember the part where he says, now more people have cell phones than have toilets. He is only indicating the widespread predominance or the prevalence of cell phones. What is the best answer? Vikram is saying answer is C. Are you sure? Cell phones have become a bigger necessity. ये neutral है, right? And second, more people have cell phones than have toilets. Which is better? Which is better? Is he saying it in a positive way? Cell phones have more people have cell phones than have toilets. Is he happy with this? He is criticizing. He is sarcastic, right? Best answer is E. The number of cell phone users has increased over time. इतना increase हुआ है कि मतलब number आजकल बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया. What he means to say is that people have more cell phones, right? Now, Why am I eliminating B? The need to be connected is more pronounced now. Now, the need to be connected, according to the author, is there a need to be connected or is it created by us only? ये need really है. According to the author, tell me, is this need really there or is it an unnecessary, inconvenience? It's an unnecessary disturbance. Author phone के बारे में जब बात करते हैं तो is he supportive of it? He is criticizing it. So that means is he supportive of this? The need to be connected. Is there a need to be connected or is it like it is an unnecessary device? According to the author, it's an unnecessary device. Its number has increased. So B में जो ये positive attitude है, it is not required. ठीक है. Even in C, cell phones have become a bigger necessity than toilets. Is he saying this practically or is he saying that number has increased? Okay, why not D? Okay. Aniket, the usage of toilets is limited while cell phones are used all the time. अच्छा एक बार बताओ, where do you know this that the toilets, when he says now more people have cell phones than have toilets, the usage of toilets is limited. How do we know this that the usage of toilets is limited? Where is it implied? Where is it implied that the usage of toilets is limited? महिमा ई इज वेरी बेसिक. बेसिक आंसर नहीं हो सकता, बाकी सब तो गलत है ना, बाकी सब तो पैसेज की ओपिनियन के हिसाब से है ही नहीं. राइट, ही वाज क्रिटिसाइजिंग देयर. ठीक है, राइट. सो एवरीबडी वांट्स टू से कनेक्टेड. ये बेसिकली समथिंग इज समथिंग व्हिच वी डू नॉट नो एट ऑल. इज इट अ वांट और अ नीड और इज द ऑथर क्रिटिसाइजिंग इट? ही इज क्रिटिसाइजिंग इट. Right. So the usage of toilets is limited while cell phones are used all the time. So the problem with this is this, we do not know very clearly. ठीक है. So important thing here is we are choosing A because बाकी सब में the criticism जो है वो दिख नहीं रहा. Right. And E, the number of cell phone users has increased over time. This is the only thing which can be according to what the passage says. ठीक है. So best answer is E. Everybody got the point, I hope. Everybody understood? All clear? Aniket, if first part of D was not given, then तो वो मत करो. That is what you need to avoid. देखो Aniket and everybody else, do not hypothesize because when I choose A, B, C, D and E, अभी when I choose E, I am looking at all the options as they are given now. अगर मैं एक में थोड़ा चेंज कर दूं तो उससे that will disturb the whole dynamics. Right. It's like saying अगर अभी प्राइम मिनिस्टर अभी जो है इनकी जगह अगर हिटलर को बनाते तो क्या होता? You do not know, you never know, right? So hypothesize मत करो. अगर इसको remove करते तो क्या होता? The usage, if you remove, okay, सबसे पहले Aniket, if you remove the first part of D, right, then it will not be meaningful also. ठीक है. So if you change the answer options, the whole dynamics will change. So that is what we have to be clear. Okay, Mahima, option E does not compare it with the toilets. देखो, what does the author intend to convey? Right, it means what does he want to say? It does not mean इस लाइन को ट्रांसलेट करो. समझ में आ रहा है महिमा? राइट. सेल फोन्स टॉयलेट से ज्यादा हो गया, दैट मीन्स आजकल सेल फोन्स का नंबर पहले से ज्यादा हो गया. राइट. सो दैट इज वन ऑफ द थिंग्स. इट इज नॉट लाइक you are not translating it, you are actually looking at what could be the meaning, that what could be one of the meanings. Okay, Gajodhar is saying option C. अच्छा, option C देखो, cell phones have become a bigger necessity. Right. Do you know this very surely? More people have cell phones than have toilets. Right. He is sarcastic here. ठीक है. More people have cell phones than have toilets. Does it mean that cell phones have a bigger necessity? This is something which you do not know, na? Right. See, cell phones do not have a bigger necessity. Human beings, right? He is sarcastic there, and he is also देखो, this is what is called hyperbole. He is exaggerating. अगर मैं कहता हूँ सचिन तेंदुलकर is like a lion, will you say that make him fight with lion? देखते कौन जीतता है. ठीक है. राइट. अनिकेत, ओवर टाइम इंटरप्रेट करने का एक ही तरीका है, पुराने जमाने में और अभी, राइट। एंड पैसेज में वही तो कर रहा था, पुराने जमाने में ये सब डिस्ट्रैक्शंस नहीं था, आजकल है, राइट। सो ओवर टाइम का मतलब नाउ भी है, नाउ दैट मीन्स पहले नहीं था, ठीक है, क्लियर, ऑल क्लियर, आई होप एवरीबॉडी इज क्लियर, क्लियर है। सो वी आर चूजिंग द बेस्ट ऑप्शन, राइट। सो दिस इज व्हाट वी नीड टू बी केयरफुल अबाउट, चूज द बेस्ट आंसर इन मेनी केसेस, ठीक है। चलो, लेट्स सी another question, which of the following can be best inferred from the passage? देखो गजोधर, when you say that the number of cell phones is more than the number of toilets, does it mean that people have started liking telephones more than toilets? We do not know, na, we do not know, itna that relation is not very simple as that, right? It's also, you can also say number of phones you require, every person you require one phone, but for one toilet you can have 10 people, you can have many factors there, okay? So we basically need to be looking at the various, factors. Let's see the next question. Okay, now before doing anything else in this passage, tell me, ओके, यहाँ एक बार बताओ, मल्टीटास्किंग को ऑथर क्रिटिसाइज कर रहा था, सपोर्ट कर रहा था? मल्टीटास्किंग, he says it is connected to distractions, right? You focus on many things, all your brain will be all distracted, and eventually it does not make you achieve anything, ठीक है, right? So what is the best answer? Let's see. एक बार बताओ, many of you are saying, ओके, सी इलिमिनेट करते हैं, इट हेल्प्स यू कंप्लीट 1000, देखो क्रिटिसाइज करता है, it looks like multitasking is better, but the author was saying multitasking distracts. Does it help you complete thousands of tasks? No. So multitasking negative है, so A we can eliminate. Multitasking help you move towards different goals, help you achieve the one, I mean again वो negative यहाँ नहीं दिख रहा है. What is the problem with C? Multitasking gives you happiness, single tasking gives you satisfaction. Where do we say this? Where do we find this? Here again he is not criticizing, he is saying दोनों के अपने अपने requirements है, ठीक है. So we have eliminated C. Choose between D and E. Choose between D and E. Best answer is D. Multitasking gives you a feeling of achieving many things, like a drug, right? Does it not tell you that multitasking is addictive? It gives you something, it is addictive, it gives you something like a drug. So that way, it gives you a feeling, while single tasking enables actually achieving something. So the best answer is D. Problem with E क्या है? Multitasking takes you all over, single tasking helps you achieve some goals. अच्छा, problem with E is multitasking takes you all over. Right, the problem with this is this. Multitasking takes you all over का मतलब क्या हुआ? What does it mean by takes you all over? So अनिकेत यही problem है, right? Takes you all over can have a positive meaning, right? It can take you all over the world, मतलब take you everywhere. कृपा, takes you all over का मतलब क्या हुआ? Takes you all over मतलब takes you everywhere. So is it a negative thing if it makes you achieve everything and takes you everywhere? No. So that is why the best answer is D. So understand, as I was telling you, the author criticizes multitasking. Multitasking is like a drug, it is addictive, right? it gives you satisfaction or pleasure, but it is a false, like drug का satisfaction जैसा है, it is addictive. ठीक है? Everybody understood? So problem with E is when you say takes you all over, it is not necessarily negative. ठीक है? Clear everybody? Right. So this is like the previous एक स्लाइड है, ये तो हम ऑलरेडी कर चुके हैं, राइट. सो this one we have already done, right? This was the first slide, right? So everybody is clear? Naidu, it can also mean obsess. Okay, not just obsess. Dekho, if you say it takes you all over, it can mean it takes you all over the place. ठीक है, राइट. आदित्य बी, एक चीज देखो, मल्टीटास्किंग हेल्प्स यू मूव टुवर्ड्स डिफरेंट गोल्स. पॉजिटिव जैसा लग रहा है, राइट. इट हेल्प्स यू मूव टुवर्ड्स डिफरेंट गोल्स. पॉजिटिव जैसा लग रहा है, जो पॉजिटिव जैसा लग रहा है वो गलत है. मल्टीटास्किंग अकॉर्डिंग टू द ऑथर इज नेगेटिव. ठीक है. इट इट गिव्स यू अ फॉल्स सेंस ऑफ अचीवमेंट. ठीक है. Aniket, single tasking helps you actually achieve some goals. Okay, एक मिनट रुक जाओ. देखो, okay, 1 second Aniket, एक चीज देखो, that is exactly why D में देखो, single tasking enables, it means it helps you. ठीक है. Enables means it helps you. ठीक है. So it helps you, it it makes you closer to that. ठीक है. So one is beneficial, right? One is negative. ठीक है. Clear, I hope, right? Okay. Now before we leave, some information that you already know about, right? These are the courses that you can prepare for, and there is this mega mock challenge. You can think of taking it, right? And these are the courses which are open. These are the teachers who take your classes. So with that, we come to the end of the session. Okay, right. So we will end it here. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you again tomorrow with another passage. We will discuss it like this again. So thank you. Have a nice day. See you, everybody. See you at the same time, 10 o'clock tomorrow.